Students of Notre Dame University, they walked out in protest as Pence gave his commencement speech. Now, the speech was supposed to be given by Donald Trump because Notre Dame usually has the new president give the speech, but the students had petitioned against Donald Trump before Donald Trump could even give the speech. The school honored that, and they had Mike Pence deliver the commencement speech instead. According to the Washington Post, a coalition of student activist groups at Notre Dame called We Stand For plan to walk out to protest policies Pence pursued as governor that they say targeted the most vulnerable. And this was very widespread. So they had notified the school, they had notified people if they wanted to be part of this walkout. There was about 100 students that did the walkout. They were met with some applause, some boos, but it did not interrupt the ceremony. The school officials also, according to the Washington Post here, say, quote, knew of the student walkout plans and did not try to stop them. Paul Brown, vice president for public affairs and communications, said Notre Dame has been the site of protests of presidents and vice presidents in the past, and as long as the students did not disrupt the ceremony, it was allowed to take place. But then you look how polarizing the reaction is, either people saying that these students, that this was disrespectful, others saying that this was their right to stand up for what they believe in. Where do you lie?
I think protest, it's really hard if you're protesting something to come across as respectful for the people you're protesting against. No one is gonna look at the protest of someone that they disagree with and be like, that was respectful, good for you. But I think this was peaceful, it didn't disrupt the ceremony. This country was founded on dissent of power, and I think that being able to voice that in a way, in a silent way, actually, that was still very clear. I definitely would have done that if I was at that same graduation ceremony, just sort of to remove myself, because as a gay person, I don't really want to sit and have Mike Pence tell me about what I should look forward to in life. So I saw there was one girl with a rainbow flag on her back, and that's the sort of thing I would have done. I would have been like, thank you and goodbye.
I think it was powerful to see that many people leave. Yeah, you see that there's a lot of folks left over, but it was a good amount of people, and I think another effective person was the one with a rainbow on her, whatever that board is called, and she stood up and turned around so that it was angled back toward Pence so he could see it, because he's like a gay conversion therapy type of guy. And that's messed up.
Yeah,
I agree.
I agree with both of you. I also, going to his speech, some of the things he said that was kind of hypocritical was about the First Amendment, freedom of speech, and the threat to that. But he's employed and reports to a person who is the biggest threat to that in our country right now.
Good point.
And I thought, okay, if I was graduating from Notre Dame and I was at the ceremony, would I feel a little cheated by this activity? Because I mean, protesting is a kind of, people look at it as a negative thing, and it could come across as disruptive. And even though it wasn't, thank God, I kind of felt that maybe some people that were there that just wanted to receive a diploma or just receive their degree and go home were kind of maybe a little bit robbed of that because of what was going on there. Even though it wasn't violent, even though it wasn't.
I think this was the best version of a protest.
Yeah, for sure.
It didn't disrupt. They got people that got to stand up and quietly walk out, and I agree. I mean, yeah, I mean, if he stands for everything that you're against, and then yet he's telling you how to live your future, I wouldn't want to stand there and listen to that either.
And I agree with that. I think I'm in complete accordance with the people who walked out. I'm just thinking about the people who were collateral damage.
Yeah, if it would have went awry.
Who could possibly have been collateral damage to this?
It took like less than 5 minutes for them to walk out, and he spoke for significantly longer than that. So I don't think that it really detracted from the overall ceremony. It's different than, remember when Betsy DeVos gave a graduation speech, and that was marred with a lot of boos and sort of, there was noise. And if you really loved Betsy DeVos, which some people do, they probably were robbed of that experience of listening to her speak. But if you really love Mike Pence and you love listening to your friend's weird homophobic dad talk, I would assume, then you got to witness that dull speech, which really was, I mean, it wasn't very controversial, the speech, I think. It was just,
it wasn't gonna be.
No, yeah, it wasn't at all.
Like,
it was like generic quotes.
And good for Notre Dame
or something.
Yeah, good for the college for allowing it to take place and staying out of it. You know, whereas Berkeley and other colleges that really get involved when they have a controversial speaker come through, it's always in the news of all this activity against it. Notre Dame's like, you know what? I mean, they're more than welcome to protest if they want to.
Let's put a dividing line between those two, because the Berkeley thing is a very like new specific strategy of like extremists, and then taking what the university says and kind of blowing it out of proportion to make it seem like the university is 100% against it, when frequently the university is just like, can you speak on this day instead, because we'll have more security that day because you're having like the most polemic speaker possible come speak, so we want to be ready for it. So that's one thing. Notre Dame has presidents come speak when they're new, and that's a thing in both parties and whatnot. But yeah, I think it's fine to have him speak, and I think it turned out as well as it could.
Thankfully,
probably a less awkward situation for him than other ones he's found himself in. Mike Pence, like he had that awkward encounter at Hamilton when he got called out to his face. So I think this was really a pretty under the radar yet very clear way to voice your dissent for a vice president that a lot of people of this generation disagree with.
Do you think that if that were to happen to you, and obviously you're different than Mike Pence, but do you think seeing the reaction from Hamilton, seeing the reaction from these students, would it make you look at yourself and go, man, maybe I should be more inclusive? I'm actually hurting people.
And what you see in Mike Pence, as opposed to Donald Trump, is Pence is someone who's been there and done that. He is a politician. He knows exactly what to do. And it's presented itself with like the Comey firing, where Pence just kind of stepped forward, and then the Mike Flynn situation, where Pence is like, as a politician in the public eye, this is what you say, this is what you do. With Flynn, he fired him, and with Comey, he was like, first I've heard, with Flynn, it's like, first I heard of it, this is what I say, we fired him. And then with Comey, he just says, well, this seems like the best message, I'll check later, but this is the dominant strategy on how to present it. And Pence has been there and seen it. But the thing I was gonna say earlier is when I was a junior in college, Condoleezza Rice spoke at the commencement. And that was like before Iraq became that crazy thing that it ended up being, but it was still starting to get a little weird. And there were protesters in the front with signs throughout her whole speech. And then we had Sandra Day O'Connor, who was like a Reagan appointee, but she also was like the first female justice of the Supreme Court. So there's different qualifiers on what will make an individual inspire what level of protest. And I think with Pence, it's pretty cut and dry that if you're speaking to, I know it's a Catholic university, but you're also speaking to 22-year-olds, and you are on the record as being like, gay conversion therapy and the like, and you're, part of the ticket that is the Donald Trump presidency. People walking out, I think
I'm sure he
totally
expected it. And like you had mentioned, or you did, Notre Dame, with some of their previous speakers, even with President Obama, there was a protest, anti-abortion protest there during the commencement speech. So they understand that they're going to be welcomed with some protesters, and I think that they prepare themselves for just that.
Yeah, I also think that
final thought.
He's a born-again Christian, and so as a part of that, he views his mission, because when you're born again, you have like this new sort of lease and mission on your Christianity and on your faith, that the dissent that he sees is sort of a consequence of the moral rot that he feels this country has fallen victim to. So that doesn't really change his opinion. It's more like, I am doing this good. It is a necessary evil. We live. We should fear God, but God is a loving, but also a God that will like punish, and there's retribution. So I think that I don't think this was a moment where he like looked at himself.
Sad.
It was more just like, oh no, these poor lost, wayward children of God who are walking out. I mean, that is how a lot of Christians do view like the LGBT community, as wayward children that are lost.
Instead of saying knowing that it's hurting them, that you're saying that who you love isn't. I can't imagine that they. Yeah, it's really.
Don't imagine. Don't go.
Yeah, it's sad to me. Really sad.
Yeah.